Stay tuned to learn about a premises liability case that resulted from electrocution. Today, we're here with Kurt Zahner and Mark Harden, principals in the Zahner Harden law firm in Denver, Colorado, to talk about a premises liability case involving electrocution. Gentlemen, welcome, and we'd love to hear more details about this case.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I always like talking about the wins. The losses aren't as exciting to talk about, so the wins are always the ones that stick out. But we've kind of developed a reputation for working on electrocution cases. We've had not one but two large verdicts when our client was electrocuted, and strangely enough, came down with CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. This happened in both of the electrocution cases that we had, and so we've developed a real niche in this area, learning about electricity, perfecting ways of how to talk about how it can cause injury, and in particular how it causes injury to the nervous system. And so that's, I said it's kind of strange they both developed CRPS, but it's not so strange because electricity works very, very oddly in the body. To say someone would completely understand it would be an overstatement. And so in two of the cases that we've had, both went to trial. We had blue collar workers. One guy was a floor installer, another was an electrician. They were both working on essentially electrical boxes, and they both got shocked by electricity, and they both came down with complex regional pain syndrome, which for those who don't know about it is, I don't want to say it's a death sentence, but it's one of the worst pain syndromes that you can develop, because it takes a part of your nervous system, your central nervous system. It takes the sympathetic nervous system, which is not supposed to carry pain signals, and then all of a sudden when CRPS sets in, it causes that nervous system to go haywire, and now it starts carrying pain signals again and again and again until anything could be a trigger for that kind of pain. Hot weather, cold weather, any kind of stress, and now you're constantly feeling like your limbs are on fire or tingling or burning. And so electricity can do this to people. And so we've been able to figure out a way to describe that to a jury in a compelling way.
And so from our research, and I wanted to ask you about this, we found that you obtained the largest premises liability verdict in the state of Colorado for a client who was electrocuted. Is that correct?
That's correct. Colorado is not California. It's not Cook County in Illinois. We have smaller verdicts here. The largest premises liability verdict was one that our firm reached. It was for $16 million here in Colorado back in 2018. That was the first of our two electrocution CRPS verdicts. And in Colorado, another kind of little known fact is that we have terrible damage caps. And so we cannot ask for a lot of money for pain and suffering because our cap is essentially $500,000 to $1 million. And so that money would literally just go away for our client. So we try and lump all of our damages on these big cases into what's a third category called physical impairment damages or disfigurement. And so we were able to do that for a majority of the damages, or a lot of the damages in that first case in 2018. It was a case called Brian Warrenberg versus Excel. And he was a flooring installer, 31 years old, father of 3 young boys. And he was at work installing floors on a new house, on a new build, and needed some power for his flooring equipment. And so there was a breaker box set up outside. It's called a temporary electrical box. And he went to get some power from it, and it wasn't providing power. He couldn't plug his machine in. He did a few troubleshooting tips. He flipped the breakers like people do at their house, and it exploded on him. And he came down with that complex regional pain syndrome. Never throw a ball with any of his sons. He'll never go for a run with them. He'll never show them how to make a tackle in football. He developed CRPS in all 4 of his limbs at 31. Will never work another day in his life. He's been on a steady cocktail of pain medications and therapies. He got 50 some odd injections, and with CRPS, you just try to manage the pain. There's nothing really to cure it, and sometimes it can get a lot worse.
Wow, that's hard to believe, and it's so fantastic that you all have developed this expertise in this very, I guess what I would describe, niche area of the law. And so do you find that you're getting referrals of more cases now, that other trial lawyers, I guess, that have what we would call a general personal injury practice probably don't have the skill, the expertise, the resources to manage these types of cases? Is that what you're finding now?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think there's a lot of unknowns out there. People don't know how to handle the electrocution cases, both through a mechanism of injury and then the kind of injuries that result from it and what the future looks like. So literally days after we received this largest premises liability verdict in the history of Colorado, I got a call from a lawyer saying, hey, I got a case pretty similar, and consulted with me on it. A year later, he brought us on board, and we ended up trying that case and ended up getting an $8.5 million verdict, which ended up being like 10.5 with our interest. And we used, a lot of the same experts, both on the liability side and on the damages side. But more importantly, one of the big challenges in that case was that the defendant had destroyed the electrical box that our client had been electrocuted through. And so we had no way to prove that the box was created in a shoddy or negligent way. We just had pictures, and we had the conduct of the defendant destroying the evidence. And so that was a huge part of that electrocution case. And we had filed a motion for sanctions saying, hey, Judge, we can't prove our case because this defendant destroyed the key piece of evidence and then kept lying about when they destroyed it, how they destroyed it, depending on who they were talking to over the course of the next 3 years, where the judge said, you know what, because you destroyed the evidence and then you lied about it, the other side, the plaintiff, will get a presumption of liability and a presumption of causation, which is a big deal to us lawyer geeks.
Absolutely. And, we touched on that earlier, and thank you for sharing all of that. Again, it's about getting justice for your client and your client's family, but it's about making the world a safer place and holding these corporate defendants and insurance companies accountable for this behavior. So, two very awesome stories. Thank you again, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.